Hi, welcome to the QSO Today Expo, and welcome to the FlexRadio booth at the QSO Today Expo. My name is Mike, and I want to take you through a tour of our product line and also have you visit our booth here at the Expo, where we're actually online and we can answer any questions you may have. In case you're unable to reach us or you're watching this after the Expo is over, you can always reach us by calling us at 512-535-4713, option 1. You can email us at sales@flexradio.com. If you're outside the US and you're in some other country, please look at the website at www.flexradio.com. And near the bottom of the page, you'll see a link for distributors that will show you other vendors that sell our product outside the United States. And lastly, if you're a Facebook user, feel free to join us at the Flex Radio Enthusiast Group, where we have a large number of members that are doing amazing things with their radios. And they'll be happy to help you with any questions. So first off, what is a Flex Radio? Well, that's a good question. Flex Radio is a HF radio with 100 watts out from 160 through to 6 meters, and one of our models even works on 2 meters. And it's a software-defined radio. Well, what's a software-defined radio? Well, software-defined radio is just actually a technology. And that technology replaces previous technologies, as we've seen through the electronics era. Back in the 70s, we were dealing with tubes. And as we moved up, we got to integrated circuits and things got smaller. Well, the trend continues. Most of that's been replaced by a really cool circuit called a field programmable gate array, an FPGA, that allows us to write software to do the same thing all those tubes and inductors and everything did. So that's probably the last time I'm ever going to mention FPGA, but I thought you'd like to know. And one of the questions I get all the time from people is, I want to get on the radio, but I don't want to use a computer. Well, that's okay too. We've got you covered. And I'll talk to you about our 6400M and our 6600M, which can operate without a computer, just sitting on your bench like every other radio today. So why would I want to go to a software-defined radio? Well, there are many incredible advantages. First, your radio never gets old and it's future-proof. And designed correctly, like we hope we've done, as we move forward into the years, you won't have to actually replace the hardware, you'll just replace the software. The software, which we call Smart SDR, is included with your radio at no extra charge. And should you never want to upgrade your radio in the future to major versions, and we're currently at version 3 as I record this, then that's fine. You'll never have to pay for a software license again. And it stays with the radio forever, which is awesome. If we come out with new features in the next version, which will be version 4, and they're something you'd really like, then sure enough, you may want to pay for that upgrade. And in the past, that upgrade has been incredibly reasonable at $199. Imagine in the past if you wanted to upgrade your radio. You had to sell the old radio, try to make some money on it, deal with that sale, and then go buy the new radio. And that was a hugely expensive proposition. Not today. This is where the Flex Radio software designed radio comes in. So that's one of the last times I'll mention SDR, so don't worry about it. And if you're freaking out about software defined radio, the odds are you probably already own one. And I know you're shaking your head and go, not me, not me. Well, if you own a cell phone, that is a software defined radio. And we really don't care today what happens between the antenna and the speaker on a cell phone or on our radio. So welcome to the SDR world. So some of the cool things in the Flex series of radios, and these are the features I really like, is one of them is something called the wide noise blanker. And the wide noise blanker has the ability to take very rhythmic noise and totally make it go away, and you gain about 20 or 30 dB of signal to noise ratio.
The wide noise blanker looks at a very broad range of spectrum and then does what it can to invert and remove itself, and essentially we get to hear things. I'll turn the audio on and you can hear what we're listening to. Right now this is the OnTARS net on a Saturday morning. We can barely hear this person. And that's the net controller. Now he's incredible. He's pretty strong, but we'll turn it.
From the 3IS. WB2KAO here. Good morning, Barry. And
WB2KAO, we can barely hear. Let me turn the blanker back on.
Yeah, real good, Barry. Just got off the bike, and I thought, well, let me check in with you here for a minute before I go up and get in the shower. We got quite a bit of fuel here.
Quite impressive.
Nick still feels, I think he did about 5 or 10 check-ins to the Laurentian or whatever net he was running last night, but still he is saying he's not really right up to the full hour, so I'll appreciate that. And if I hear anything
As well, I find the radio incredibly quiet. Just right out of the box, just turn it on and use it. And a great example is in the summertime when we're on the low bands and we're dealing with lightning static crashes. You know what? I find I don't hear them. Well, I hear them, but they don't impact my QSO anymore. Unlike before with a superhet radio, what would happen is a lightning strike would happen and our S meter would ping all the way to the end and the radio would do what it's supposed to do with loud signals and turn down the gain, and of course for the next 1 to 4 seconds we wouldn't hear anything that the person was saying. And that would often result with, what did you say? The lightning crash took you out. Well, I've never heard a flex radio operator say that. Something you really got to hear and experience how strong a feature that is. If any old radio you've bought before, you probably wanted to buy filters. And they were expensive. They were a lot of money. And some radios held 1 and some 2 and some 5, but you sort of had to commit up front. Did I want the CW filter? Did I want a sideband filter? How wide did I want it? What if I wanted them all? Most radios couldn't hold all the filters they made. And the software-defined radio, the filters are, well, variable. You can make them what you want, 300 hertz, 500 hertz, 330 hertz, and very sharp. In fact, they're twice the filtering that we've ever seen before over a mechanical filter. Something else you've got to hear to believe. The other thing that software-defined radios do is we're not impacted by that guy that's splattering 10 kilohertz up anymore. Because the automatic gain control on a superhet radio would actually hear that RF signal, maybe not the stuff we're hearing in our ears, but it would have that energy coming in the antenna, it again would turn down the gain on the front end of the radio. And that's what we called AGC pumping, or automatic gain control pumping. That's a thing of the past with a Flex 6000 series radio. The only time you hear a guy splattering is if he's right on top of you in the same frequency, and of course you can't do much about that. So today, if you're concerned about having to have a fast computer or any computer at all, that's not the case. The Flex 6000 series radios do all the math and all the heavy lifting in the black box itself. No need to worry about that. And that allows us to do things like even get on the air from an iPhone. Like, I don't know, right here on 20 meters. And I can do that in my house, across the yard, a different room, my neighbor's place. I could take it to a shut-in who's maybe in long-term care, a mall, or pretty much anywhere. And it's not that hard to set up. You don't need to be a network expert. And I think you'll enjoy that feature, which we call SmartLink. And that's available in all our radios. It comes included, no extra charge. So let's talk about some of the terms. The spectral capture unit. Every radio has 1, and some radio have 2. And when you have 2, that allows you to use the radio like having 2 radios on a desk, but you only have 1. It's a great feature of the Flex 6000 series radios. The 6600 series and the 6700 have 2 spectral capture units. And that allows you to hook up 2 unique antennas and use both unique antennas at the same time. Pretty slick. The other term you might hear me mention is slice. Well, a slice is a receiver or a VFO. It's what you hear. It's what you use to hear. Some radios, the 6400 has 2 slices, the 6600 has 4 slices, and the 6700 has 8 slices. And you can use whatever antenna you want with those slices as well. And if you have 2 SCUs, you can use 2 different antennas at the same time with those slices. And you don't really have to worry about exactly how your antennas are connected because we help you with that, and it's built in. It's pretty slick as well. And then the other really key thing is something called the client. The client is something that we use to access the radio. Now, you may be used to seeing software-defined radios running from a PC. Well, the PC is the client. I just showed you it running from my iPhone with Smart SDR for iOS. That's another client. There is software also available for things like MacBooks And then we have this wonderful device called the Maestro, which I'll show you a picture of right here, which is really big. It's got a great 8-inch screen, the knobs you need, and that allows you to connect to any Flex 6000 series radio, whether you're in your own home, or you can connect that to the internet just about anywhere else in the world and do the same thing using SmartLink. Again, that's included. Now the M models radios, there's two of those, the 6400M and the 6600M, are like having a Maestro stuck on the front. Now it's permanently there, you can't remove it and take it with you. But this gives you a standalone radio that you can do CW or sideband on anywhere, from a picnic table bench, a battery and an antenna, as I say. So that gives you the field day experience without having to worry about anything else. Or, as many of my customers do, they'll actually take a Maestro and a radio like a 6400 or a 6600, and they'll take just a 6-foot LAN cable, plug it in the Maestro, plug it in the back of the radio, and it works as a complete solution. You don't need to take a router and a whole network and be a network gizmo guru to make this function. Also, that's pretty unique. So let's talk about the single SCU radios. That's the 6400M and the 6400. They have one spectral capture unit, and it allows you to switch between antenna 1 or antenna 2. You can only use one at a time. But that's okay. If you use a multi-band antenna like a G5RV or a HF6V vertical or something, you can easily be on 80 meters on one slice and 20 meters on another slice at the same time. The 6400 comes with 2 slices. That works out really well if you want to monitor a band and maybe be on an FT8 digital mode as well. Now I'm going to go through this pretty quickly, but it's certainly worthy of more conversation, so that's why you want to reach out to us. The 6400 starts, believe it or not, at $19.99, under $2,000, and if you're in the United States, that comes with free shipping. If you're outside the United States, please check with our distributors and see what deals and shipping options they have as well. The antenna tuner is optional on the 6400. The 6600 and the 6600M, as well as the 6700, have 2 spectral capture units. So you can now access 2 different antennas at the same time. But on the 6600, you have 4 slices of receivers that you can distribute all on one antenna or all on the other, or 1 and 3, 2 and 2. And on the 6700, because you have 8 slices, you can divvy that up any way you like between the 2 antennas. As well, the 6700 will do VHF on 2 meters, albeit at 5 milliwatts, and you will require an amplifier to get to full power on that. All radios have at least 1 transverter port and 1 receiving antenna port. The 6600 has 2 of those, so it's a great radio if you want to build up a station using transverters for satellite work. Now, some of the really other cool features that are on all of the radios are tracking notch filters. Well, and a tracking notch filter allows you to notch out a specific frequency. Maybe you've got a birdie on right here, whatever that is. Well, you put the notch filter there, and every time you dial the VFO, it stays where the birdie is. Unlike every other radio, when you move the VFO, the notch moves with it. Well, what good is that? So that's pretty slick. So let's talk about the 2 other key parts, digital modes, and how we handle our digital modes. We have Smart SDR CAT and Smart SDR DAX. These are 2 helper programs that go onto a PC that allow the PC to access the data from the radio. And that data is sound data, the receiving data, and the audio we want to send. And the other data is the CAT data, what frequency, what mode we're in, and to also put the radio into transmit, push to talk. So that's pretty slick too. And now, as many programs as you want, you could run multiple copies of WSJT, as many slices as you have. You can run CW decoders, you can run different logbooks, all connected and getting data from the radio at the same time. And you could be using your Maestro to dial frequency and set many different things, while the computer is also sharing that data for your digital modes. So it's the best of both worlds. One of my many favorite features is MultiFlex. And this is an absolute game changer. MultiFlex has the phenomenal ability to have your radio available not only to one person or one user on your LAN or on the internet, but up to 2. They have full access to your radio. These need to be friends of yours or trusted people, or a club that allow you to, say, both be on 80 meters. One can be on 80, one be on 40. You share the antennas and whatever, Or if you're somebody that wants to build a station that a bunch of you can use, it allows 2 users to have access to the station at the same time. So MultiFlex is an absolute game changer. And yes, some people use it for contesting. More people use it from simply, I've got my radios in the basement, I went out upstairs, I took my Maestro or my iPad. Oh, I want to get back onto my net or listen to my buddies. I just connect again as a second user. And that's how MultiFlex really gets used. That works. Pretty cool. So there's one other thing I didn't mention. There's a lot more these radios can do. And that's why, please, if you have a question, reach out to us. You can call us, email us, visit us at the booth, and we'll try to answer your question. And by the way, our volunteers are all active amateurs too, and they use our radios, and they're quite familiar with a lot of the cool features we do. And there's a whole bunch of advanced features I didn't even get into or scratch the surface, but they're there. So let's talk about the Power Genius amplifier. Full legal limit, and this is a full duplex amplifier that allows you to actually connect like a 6400, a 6600, and with the 6600 you get to use both spectral capture units at the same time, meaning you could really be listening on 40 while you're transmitting on 20. Well, why do we care? Well, the SO2R contesters care, and you might be just listening to a QSO on 40 while you're running FT8 on 20, and it goes into transmit, and you could still hear that QSO going on. To do that previous to this day, the amount of equipment you have to purchase and be an RF engineer, pretty amazing, but we do it all for you. The PGXL interfaces with our radios just by plugging it into your LAN, which is your home network. And then it behaves like part of the radio. So it's like having a big solution of an HF radio and a full power amplifier. And you don't need to keep it right here on your desk. You can have it beside you. You can have it at the base of the tower, wherever you have power. And Cat 5 cable or Cat 6 cable is a lot cheaper to run than a whole pile of Heliacs if you're worried about RF loss. We have so many customers today that are now moving all their RF equipment to the base of their tower and connecting to it over the LAN, albeit let's call that remotely somewhat, and managing it that way. And they're getting more RF out their antennas because they have less loss in their feed lines. And it's a lot cheaper. If you have any other radio like ICOM, Kenwood, Yaesu, Elecraft, you can also connect those directly to the PGXL. In fact, you can connect 2 at the same time. There are 2 other really neat features that the PGXL has that no other amplifiers have. One is MEFA, Maximum Efficiency Algorithm. MEFA adjusts the bias on the amplifier depending on your mode for its most efficient mode of operation. Why do I care? Well, this is less heat in the amplifier by doing this. It may take you a bit more drive to do it, but the amplifier is running significantly cooler. Case in point, in an FT8 mode, you might drive the amplifier up to 70 degrees Celsius, which is well within reason. Running MEFA, it may only run at 40 degrees Celsius. So that's what MEFA does for you. The other one is our ability to handle harmonics and how they impact the IMD quality of your transmission. In any other amplifier today, when you transmit a signal, let's say on 14 megahertz, it also creates a harmonic on 28 megahertz. And that 28 megahertz we don't want, so generally we just trap it with a low-pass filter so it doesn't go on out the air, and it gets turned into heat and some interference happening in the amplifier as it bangs around between the low-pass filter and the power amplifier. What we do in the flex world is we funnel that off to the side with a high-pass filter into a dummy load. And this is a big dummy load in the amplifier. I think it's 400 watts. And it does get warm, showing that we're actually dealing with harmonics in the amplifier correctly. This gives you a cleaner signal, and that's the harmonic load. So there's a brief overview of the Flex product line, from the 6400, the 6600, the 6700, the Maestro, and the PGXL. We have a bunch of accessories too. There's a whole bunch of integration you can do that's very seamless. So I've just scratched the surface. So feel free to talk to us about how you can control external amplifiers, multiple software programs, external bandpass filters or tuners, and not just one like every other radio. We can do multiples at the same time, and it's not complicated. So visit us please at the QSO Today Expo booth virtually, and if you're watching beyond that, you can call us at 512-535-4713. Please select option 1. And if we don't happen to answer, or it's after hours, leave a message. It actually gets mailed to us. We do see them and we do respond. You can also email us at sales@flexradio.com, or visit the website at www.flexradio.com. I'm really glad you took the time to listen to us, and hopefully we get to chat on the air or even on the booth electronically. Good DX to you, 73, and we'll take care. My name is Mike, VA3MW. Thanks for listening.